Before the first floor was scrubbed, before the mirror was wiped, before the kitchen sink shined again, there was one small problem that every busy home had to solve. Where are the cleaning things? That sounds too simple to matter, but it matters more than people realize. Even today, cleaning often begins with a little search around the house. The glass cleaner is under the bathroom sink. The scrub brush is in the laundry room. The dust cloths are somewhere in a drawer. The floor cleaner is in a closet behind paper towels, old bags, and things nobody remembers buying. Before the job even starts, the energy is already slipping away. Now picture a 1950s kitchen in the morning. The counters are smaller than many modern kitchens. The cabinets are fewer. There is no giant island, no wall of storage, no cabinet packed with 20 different sprays. Near the sink, under the cabinet, or on a shelf in the utility closet, there is a simple cleaning caddy. Maybe it is metal, maybe it is a wire basket, maybe it is just a handled tray or a small bucket. Inside are the things used again and again: cloths, a scrub brush, a cleanser, soap, polish, maybe a bottle for glass, maybe a small rag folded over the side. It does not look impressive, but it changes the whole rhythm of the house. If you like remembering the quiet systems that helped older homes stay cared for with fewer products and less confusion, subscribe before we go further. These small household habits may look ordinary, but they explain more than we think. The cleaning caddy worked because it made cleaning portable. A woman did not have to stop and gather things from 5 different places. She did not have to decide where to begin every time a small mess appeared. She picked up the caddy and brought the system with her. That is the part nobody mentions enough. The caddy was not just storage, it was movement. A dirty sink did not require a full cleaning session. A sticky spot on the table did not need to wait until Saturday. A bathroom mirror with toothpaste marks did not turn into a bigger job. The tools were already together, so the work could happen while it was still small. That was one of the hidden strengths of 1950s housekeeping. Many women were not waiting for the house to fall apart and then trying to rescue it all at once. They were catching little things before those little things became the whole day's work. The cleaning caddy helped make that possible. Think about how much time gets lost in modern homes before cleaning even begins. You notice the stove needs wiping, but the cleaner is gone. You go to get another bottle, see laundry in the hallway, remember something else, and the stove stays dirty. Or you start in the bathroom, but the cloths are in the kitchen. Then the phone rings, someone needs something, and the job is half done. The mess itself is not always the problem. The problem is friction. The 1950s cleaning caddy removed friction. It put the most useful items in one place. It gave the hands something to carry and the mind one less thing to think about. Pick it up, move through the house, put it back. That kind of rhythm made cleaning feel less like a project and more like part of the day. And that mattered because many homes were smaller. A smaller house could look messy very quickly. A few breakfast dishes, a pair of shoes near the door, dust on a table, spots on the sink, crumbs near the stove. These things had nowhere to hide. There was not always a spare room where clutter could be pushed away. There was not always a second bathroom, a large laundry room, or deep storage space. So the answer was not always more space. The answer was often better movement. A cleaning caddy helped a woman move through the home without losing her pace. She could start in the kitchen, wipe the sink, clean the stove edge, shake crumbs from a cloth, then carry the same caddy down the hall. In the bathroom, she could wipe the basin, polish the mirror, scrub what needed scrubbing, and move on. In the living room, she might dust a table, wipe a windowsill, or clean a small mark before anyone else noticed it. This did not mean the house was perfect. It did not mean the women were never tired. Many of them were carrying a heavy load, and the pressure to keep a home looking respectable could be real. But within that pressure, they developed systems that made the work less scattered. The cleaning caddy was one of those systems. It gave order to the supplies. It gave shape to the routine. It turned a handful of bottles, brushes, and rags into a tool that could travel. Do you remember seeing something like this in your mother's or grandmother's house? Maybe it was not called a caddy. Maybe it was a bucket under the sink, a basket in the pantry, or a handled tray kept in the laundry area. But the idea was the same. Keep the basics together, and the house becomes easier to touch up before it slips away. That is what made it powerful. The caddy did not clean the house by itself. It made the first step easier. And in housekeeping, the first step is often the hardest one. Modern homes have more cleaning supplies than many 1950s homes ever did. There are sprays for granite, sprays for stainless steel, wipes for bathrooms, wipes for kitchens, sprays for wood, sprays for glass, sprays for scent, sprays for shine, and tools for every surface. Yet with all of that, many people still feel behind. The old Caddy quietly asks a sharp question: what good are more products if they are never where your hands need them? That question was answered every time a 1950s woman picked up her Caddy and moved from one room to another. She was not making cleaning glamorous, she was making it ready. She was cutting down the time between noticing a problem and fixing it. And once a home has that kind of readiness, something changes. The sink does not wait as long. The dust does not sit as long. The small mess does not become a weekend burden. The house begins to feel less like a place always asking for rescue and more like a place being steadily cared for. But the Caddy's real power was not only that everything was together, it was that everything inside had a reason to be there. And that is where the next piece of old household wisdom begins. Fewer products often made the system stronger, not weaker. The cleaning Caddy worked partly because it was small. That may sound strange now, because modern cleaning often moves in the opposite direction. A home gets a new spray for the shower, another one for the toilet, another one for the sink, another one for the kitchen counter, another one for the stove, another one for wood, another one for glass, and another one that mostly promises a better smell. Before long, the cabinet under the sink becomes its own kind of clutter. In many 1950s homes, there simply was not room for that. A woman might have had a cleanser for sinks and tubs, a bottle for glass, a bar or flakes of soap, a scrub brush, a dust cloth, a rag for wiping, maybe polish for furniture, maybe something stronger for a serious job. Different homes had different supplies, and not every family used the same products. But the pattern was clear. The basics were expected to do more work. That made the Caddy useful because it forced decisions before the cleaning began. Only the items that earned their place stayed inside. If something was used every day or several times a week, it belonged there. If it was only used once in a while, it could stay on a shelf. The Caddy was not meant to carry every cleaner in the house. It carried the working tools. That one difference changed the feeling of the job. When a 1950s woman picked up her Caddy, she was not facing a cabinet full of choices. She was not standing there wondering which spray was best for which surface, which cloth was safe, which bottle was almost empty, or which product she bought and forgot. The decision had already been made. The tool was in her hand. The work could begin. Modern homes often have the opposite problem. We own so many supplies that the supply itself becomes another thing to manage. Half-empty bottles collect under the sink. Specialty products get pushed to the back. Wipes dry out, brushes disappear. Someone buys a second bottle because the first one was hidden behind something else. The house has more cleaning products, but the cleaning does not always feel easier. That is why the old Caddy teaches something uncomfortable. More choice can slow a person down. The 1950s housewife may not have had a perfect system, and she certainly did not have an easy life just because her supplies were fewer. But she often had a clearer path. She knew what the cloth was for. She knew which brush handled the sink. She knew which bottle made the mirror shine. She knew what could be wiped quickly and what needed a deeper scrub. The fewer items in the Caddy helped her build memory with her hands. That kind of memory matters in housework. When you use the same tools over and over, you stop thinking about every small move. The cloth goes over the counter. The brush goes to the corner of the sink. The dry rag finishes the mirror. The dust cloth moves across the table. The Caddy goes back to its place. The rhythm becomes familiar. It is not fancy, but it works. In a 1950s kitchen, the Caddy might sit near the sink because the sink was the center of so much home activity. Dishes passed through it. Vegetables were rinsed there. Rags were washed there. Hands were cleaned there. A woman could reach down, pull out the Caddy, and deal with the stove, the counter, the table, or the floor edge without turning the whole morning upside down. The same basic tools could move into the bathroom. A cloth for the basin, a cleaner for the tub, a brush for the hard places, a bottle for the mirror. Nothing had to feel complicated. The Caddy made the bathroom part of the same household rhythm, not a completely separate battle. That is one reason older housekeeping often looked more disciplined than it really was. It was not always that women had endless patience. It was that the system removed tiny arguments with the house. No argument over where the cloths were. No argument over which cleaner to use. No argument over whether it was worth starting. The Caddy had already answered those questions. Did your family have one cleaner everyone trusted? Or one old brush that seemed to be used for half the house? Many people remember a mother or grandmother who did not need a cabinet full of supplies. She had a few things she trusted, and she knew exactly how to use them. That trust came from repetition. The same products, the same motions, the same places, the same results. When something worked, it stayed. When something did not work, it did not get a permanent spot. There is a quiet lesson there for modern homes. A cleaning caddy only helps if it stays simple. Once it becomes overloaded, it stops being a system and becomes a portable mess. The handle gets crowded, the bottles leak, the cloths are stuffed inside without order. The one thing that was supposed to save time starts creating another small chore. A good caddy has limits. That may be why the old versions worked so well. The size of the caddy forced a kind of honesty. You could not bring the whole cleaning aisle with you. You had to choose what actually served the house. A cloth, a brush, a cleaner, a small bottle. A cloth rag for the final drying. Maybe one or two extras depending on the room. Enough to act, not enough to get lost. This is where the 1950s system was smarter than it looked. The caddy did not promise an easier life through more stuff. It made life easier by reducing the number of things that could interrupt the work. The woman carrying it was not carrying a store. She was carrying a decision that had already been made. And once those decisions were made, the house could be cleaned in a different way. Not as a collection of random chores scattered across rooms, but as a route. The caddy had its place, the supplies had their purpose, and the woman carrying it could move through the house with fewer stops, fewer delays, and far less confusion. The cleaning caddy did not matter only because it held supplies. It mattered because it gave the work a route. That is something many modern homes have lost. Cleaning today often happens in scattered bursts. A person wipes one counter, sees something on the floor, walks to another room, picks up laundry, notices the bathroom sink, gets distracted by the bedroom, and somehow ends up tired before one room is truly finished. The body moves, but the work does not always move forward. The 1950s cleaning caddy helped prevent that. It gave the woman carrying it a starting point and a path. Very often, that path began in the kitchen. The kitchen was not only a cooking space, it was the center of the home's daily work. Breakfast dishes, school lunches, supper preparation, coffee cups, dish towels, grocery bags, and family traffic all passed through that room. If the kitchen slipped, the rest of the house often felt as if it had slipped too. So the caddy came out near the sink. A cloth moved across the counter. Crumbs were cleared from the table. The stove edge was wiped before grease hardened into a bigger job. The sink was scrubbed after dishes. The faucet was dried so water spots did not sit. A rag might catch the floor edge where crumbs gathered near the cabinets. None of these small actions looked dramatic, but together they kept the kitchen from becoming a mountain. That was the secret. The caddy made small cleaning easier to repeat. It allowed a woman to move while the mess was still fresh before it became sticky, crusted, dusty, or embarrassing. A little cleanser, a little pressure from the hand. A dry cloth at the end, and the room felt brought back into order. From there, the same caddy could move down the hall. In the bathroom, speed mattered. Many 1950s homes had only one bathroom, and that one room had to serve the whole family. Toothpaste in the basin, fingerprints on the mirror, damp towels, soap film, toilet marks, and floor dust could make the room feel dirty quickly. There was not always a second bathroom to hide the problem. So a woman used the same portable system. The woman started with the mirror, wiping away every fingerprint. Next, she quickly scrubbed the basin until it shone. Toilet where needed, tub or floor edge when time allowed. The tools were already there. The cloth did not have to be hunted. The brush did not have to be found. The cleaner did not have to be carried bottle by bottle from another room. This is why the caddy changed the feeling of housekeeping. It helped the work stay connected. The kitchen was not one separate battle. The bathroom was not another separate battle. The hallway, bedroom, and living room were not random little problems waiting to ambush the day. The caddy joined them into one moving routine. That routine could continue into the bedrooms. A bedroom might not need scrubbing, but it still needed attention. Dust on a dresser, finger marks on a mirror, a windowsill that had collected grit, a bedside table with a ring from a glass. The caddy allowed those small marks to be handled while straightening the bed or opening curtains. Again, the power was not in doing a deep clean every morning. Few women had time for that, and many had children, errands, meals, laundry, and other responsibilities pressing in. The power was in touching the room before it felt abandoned. A cloth across the dresser, a quick wipe of the mirror, a small dusting of the lamp base, a check of the wastebasket. These were little acts, but they sent a message through the house. This room has not been forgotten. Then came the living room or front room, the place guests might see first. In many 1950s homes, that room carried a certain pressure. It had to look presentable because neighbors might stop by, relatives might visit, or someone might come to the door without much warning. A dusty coffee table or messy chair could feel like a public sign that the home was slipping. The caddy helped with those visible surfaces, a dust cloth for the table, a wipe for the windowsill, a touch of polish if the furniture needed it. In some homes, ashtrays had to be emptied and wiped. Lampshades might be checked. The mantel, if there was one, needed attention. The room did not have to be perfect, but it needed to feel cared for. This kind of route did something important for the mind. It made cleaning less emotional. When a person looks at the whole house at once, the work can feel heavy. Every room seems to be asking for attention at the same time. But when there is a route, the mind only has to follow the next step. Kitchen first, bathroom after that, bedrooms next, front room before the caddy goes back. The caddy carried the supplies, but the route carried the woman. That may be why older housekeeping could look smoother from the outside. It was not always because the work was lighter. In many ways, it was heavier. There were fewer machines, more manual chores, and stronger expectations. But the routines were clearer. A clear routine makes hard work feel less chaotic. Modern homes often suffer from broken routes. Supplies are stored by category instead of action. One cleaner is in the bathroom, another is in the kitchen. Cloths are in the laundry room, paper towels are somewhere else. The vacuum is in a closet that is blocked by other things. Each room requires its own setup before the job begins. That setup is often incredibly tiring. The 1950s caddy reduced setup. It let the hands begin before the mind could talk itself out of the job. Pick it up, carry it, clean what is in front of you, move on. There is comfort in that kind of simplicity. Would your home feel different if cleaning had a route again? Not a strict schedule, not a perfect rulebook. Just a simple path that made the work easier to begin and easier to finish. That is what the caddy gave many women. A path. And once the path existed, the home was no longer a collection of separate messes. It became a series of small places that could be touched, reset, and brought back before the day ran too far ahead. The kitchen led to the bathroom. The bathroom led to the bedroom. The bedroom led to the room guests might see. The caddy moved through them all like a quiet reminder that order was not created by panic. It was created by steady motion. But the real lesson reaches beyond the rooms themselves. The caddy worked because it placed the tools close to action. It turned readiness into a habit. And that is why this small household object still has something to teach modern homes, even now. The simple cleaning caddy may look like a small piece of housekeeping history, but its lesson is not old. It still fits modern homes because the problem has not disappeared. If anything, the problem has grown. Many homes now have more space, more storage, more cleaners, more tools, more cabinets, and more choices than a 1950s housewife could have imagined. Yet many people still feel as if their house is always one step ahead of them. That is why the caddy matters. It reminds us that keeping a home under control is not only about having enough products. It is about having the right things ready at the right moment. A clean house is often built from small actions that happen before the mess becomes discouraging. A quick wipe, a small scrub, a cloth across the sink, a bottle placed back where it belongs. One surface saved before it turns into a bigger job. The 1950s housewife understood that better than most people give her credit for. She may not have used modern language for systems, routines, or friction. She simply knew that if the tools were gathered, the work was easier to start. And that is still true. A modern cleaning caddy does not need to look old-fashioned. It does not need to be metal, painted, vintage, or pretty enough to photograph. It can be plastic, wire, canvas, or even a simple handled bin. The important part is not the look. The important part is what it does. It should carry the supplies that are used most often. Not every bottle in the house, not every extra sponge, not a graveyard of products bought once and forgotten. Just the useful things. A few cloths, one trusted all-purpose cleaner, a glass cleaner if needed, a brush. Maybe a small disinfecting product for the bathroom, and perhaps gloves if your hands need them. The caddy should make action easier. If it becomes too full, it stops helping. If it gets heavy, messy, sticky, or crowded, it becomes another clutter problem. That is where the old lesson returns. The caddy works because it has limits. It forces a household to decide what actually gets used. That decision is powerful. Modern life often tells us that the answer to a problem is another purchase. A new spray, a new mop, a new scented product, a new basket, a new organizing bin, a new cleaning trend that promises the house will finally feel easy. But the 1950s caddy suggests something quieter. Maybe the answer is not more things. Maybe the answer is putting fewer things where your hands can reach them. That is not glamorous, but it is practical. And practical habits are what kept many older homes from falling apart under daily use. The women who carried those caddies were often doing work that was repeated, invisible, and expected. They did not always get thanked for it. Many lived with pressure that should not be romanticized. A clean house could become a measure of a woman's worth in ways that were unfair and exhausting. That needs to be said honestly. But honesty also allows us to notice what worked. Some of their systems were smart. Some of their routines saved time. Some of their habits prevented mess before it became overwhelming. We do not need to bring back the pressure in order to bring back the wisdom. The caddy is a perfect example of that. It does not demand perfection. It does not ask anyone to spend all day cleaning. It does not require a spotless house or a rigid schedule. That question can change a home. It simply asks one question. What would happen if the tools you need most were always ready? Imagine a small caddy under the kitchen sink. After breakfast, it comes out for 5 minutes. The table is wiped. The kitchen counter is cleared of any leftover breakfast clutter. The sink is touched up. Finally, the cleaning caddy goes back in its place in the cabinet. Later, it comes out again for the bathroom mirror and basin. Not a full scrub, not a major cleaning day, just a reset before the room starts to feel neglected. Over time, those small resets add up. A house that receives little touches often does not need as many dramatic rescues. The kitchen does not become a battlefield. The bathroom does not become embarrassing. The front room does not feel abandoned. The work still exists, of course, but it no longer waits until it feels bigger than the person facing it. That was the quiet genius of the caddy. It turned cleaning into maintenance instead of rescue. There is a deep difference between those two things. Rescue cleaning happens when the house has already gotten away from you. It usually feels urgent, tiring, and a little defeating. Maintenance cleaning happens when small tasks are handled before they gather weight. It feels calmer because the job is smaller. The 1950s cleaning caddy supported maintenance. It made the first step visible. It gave the routine a handle. It turned separate supplies into one prepared tool. It helped the woman carrying it move through the rooms without losing her pace. Maybe that is why the memory of these old household systems still feels comforting. They remind us that order does not always come from buying more, doing more, or pushing harder. Sometimes it comes from removing one small obstacle that keeps a good habit from happening. Where is the cloth? Where is the cleaner? Where is the brush? The caddy answered all three before the question could slow the day down. If there is one lesson worth bringing back, it is that a home becomes easier to care for when the tools are placed close to the habit. Not hidden in a crowded cabinet. Not spread across 5 rooms. Not saved for the day when everything gets cleaned at once. Close enough to use while the mess is still small. That is how an ordinary object changed the rhythm of housekeeping. Nobody praised it much. Nobody treated it like a grand invention. It did not shine like a new appliance or impress guests like polished furniture. It sat under the sink, waited in the closet, or rested on a shelf with a folded rag over the side. But when it was picked up, the house moved with it. The kitchen could be brought back. The bathroom could be freshened. The bedroom could be touched. The front room could be made ready. One small handle connected the work from room to room. And maybe that is the real reason the cleaning caddy deserves more attention. It was not just a container. It was a reminder that old household wisdom often lived inside ordinary objects. A cloth, a brush, a bottle, a bucket, a tray with a handle. Nothing fancy, nothing loud, just the right things gathered in the right place. If this brought back memories of your family carrying a cleaning basket through the house, share it in the comments. Those memories are part of the wisdom families nearly stopped passing down. And if you want more forgotten household systems from the women who made simple things work, thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe before you go. The next old routine may be sitting in plain sight, just like that little caddy under the sink, waiting for someone to notice why it mattered.